the closest thing we had to a professional sports team was the Fresno State football team. And they played a game this last week at Michigan, who was the national champions from the year before, and they lost. And the coach, Fresno's coach, said, "We don't want to lose to Michigan twice." Meaning, we lost this game. We're not going to carry the feeling of that loss into the next game. Because if you carry it with you into the next game, then you might lose the next game because you're still angry at yourself for losing the last game. And it just makes me think about what we're talking about, where you have this experience where you've lost, you've been hurt in some way, and you don't heal from that. And then you continue to find other experiences in life that hurt you in the same way that the first time hurt you.
Welcome to the Weekly Transit, a podcast exploring the intersection of Western astrology and Jungian psychology. Astrology is a language that communicates how the planets and stars influence life on Earth, while psychology helps us navigate both conscious and unconscious experiences. Together, these tools offer the potential for self-understanding, growth, and transformation. Join astrologer Scott Tajarian and me, psychotherapist Gabriella Durso, as we dive into the cosmic forecast each week.
Welcome to the Weekly Transit. This is the week of September 9th to the 15th. Hi, Gabriella.
Hi, Scott.
This week, the theme is refresh. Refresh, because the highlight is Mercury transits out of its retrograde shadow. But before it does that, it transits into Virgo. And yeah, we'll get into that in a second. But I wanted to remind everyone that you have your dream workshop on the horizon still. Yes.
Yes.
It's available for enrollment.
Yes. So for those of you who missed it or just need a reminder perhaps, that I'm offering my first online workshop, which is very exciting.
Yes.
And I'm co-facilitating a dream group. It's called Messages from the Unconscious.
Yes.
With a dear friend and colleague of mine who's also a depth psychotherapist. Her name is Pam Soffer. And we're going to be bringing you an 8-week program designed for all experience levels. So whether you currently have a relationship with dreaming, or maybe you would just like to, maybe you just daydream. You don't actually remember your dreams at night, or you don't feel like you maybe remember them well enough. Everyone is welcome who's interested in dreaming, and we'll be walking you through the process each week, starting with rituals to support you in inviting dreams, is what we're calling it. So creating a relationship with your unconscious, inviting, recording, sharing dreams will be the first week. And then the following weeks will be looking at different dream rituals and practices and different ways of knowing and working with dreams. So doing some embodiment practices, working on connecting with the dreams through our bodies, experiencing the dream. Also some practical information about different ways to interpret dreams, how to extract the knowledge from the dream and actually use it in your daily life.
Yes, the wisdom.
The wisdom.
Yes.
Because dreams can be really abstract and sometimes strange, because we know the unconscious communicates with us through symbol, metaphor, and image. And so we'll be working on sort of translating that language, because while dreams are mysterious in some way, we know that they are also reflecting really practical concerns that relate to our daily life.
Yes.
So we'll be talking about, like, how do I extract the information from this dream so that I can use it to change my life in whatever way I would like to do so.
It's almost like the dreams are trying to help you wake up
Yes.
to something that exists. That's the irony. It's like you're dreaming, but the dreams are trying to wake you up
Yes.
to something that's occurring in your life and some sort of insight that you need.
Yes. Well, I almost think of it like you referred to astrology as a language.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that the messages that we hold in our unconscious, you could also think of that information as a language.
Yes, because there's symbolism.
Absolutely.
What is the meaning of this, that, or the next thing?
Mm-hmm. And there's not only like your personal interpretations, like what the dream means to you, but also we know that there are ways to look at collective symbols, universal symbols that can offer other perspectives, even maybe beyond your own, for other ways to think about the dream.
Right.
So we're very, very excited.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you enroll, get more information?
So the information can be found on my website, GabriellaDurso.com. I have a workshop tab with pricing information and more details about what we'll be covering. And once you go in, if you decide this is a good fit for you and a good time to do it, then you'll sign up, answer a brief questionnaire, and then Pam and I will be scheduling a brief call with each of the participants just to make sure it really is a match for what you're looking for before you officially sign up. So,
amazing.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, you can always email me in advance. Contact information on my website, but we'll also be speaking to everyone before the actual sign up.
Amazing.
So it's 8 weeks online, Fridays at 10 a.m. Pacific time until noon. Okay. So 2 hours each week on Zoom. So no physical location barriers. You can be anywhere in the world and do this workshop. And beginning September 27th.
Okay, right around the corner here. Just about 18 days away from right now. Yes, or the week of the 9th, September 9th. You know what I'm most curious about or intrigued by is calling in the dreams, because I hear from people that I work with that will tell me, well, I don't really dream, or I don't have dreams. And it usually, when they say that to me, there's something going on with Saturn in their chart. Like maybe it's conjunct with Neptune, or it's in the 12th house, which is the house of the unconscious, the planet of restriction in the house of the unconscious. So I'm curious to know if there's anyone out there who doesn't really dream but is curious about your workshop. Like if your techniques, what you and Pam are teaching, are going to help that person unlock something in their unconscious, because Saturn isn't just the planet of restriction, it's the planet of work and responsibility. So it's like you're almost like you're inviting people to do the work.
Absolutely.
To cultivate the dreams, to become aware of your dreams, and to make them more a prevalent part of your life. And through that, you get the reward, the wisdom of what's occurring in your unconscious.
Absolutely. And I would argue that everyone does dream.
Exactly.
And it's a matter of strengthening the voice.
The muscle.
Strengthening, exactly, the muscle, turning up the volume on your inner voice and turning down the volume on the external noise.
Yes.
So I think it's really common to feel like maybe having a relationship with your dreams is out of reach in some way, because we live in a really chaotic, hectic time where there's a lot of information that's vying for our attention at all times. And so these practices are about learning how to turn inward and listen to the voice within, listen to the messages that are coming through your own system.
Yes.
So if you're someone out there who is excited about having a relationship with your dreams, but you don't currently feel like you are dreaming, please reach out. I'd love to connect with you. You can still take the workshop, because part of it too is learning how to think symbolically. So if you have an image, maybe a recurring image for you that comes in through a daydream or through a fantasy, that's an opening to doing this work.
Yes.
To strengthening that muscle.
Yes. Understanding what these symbols mean. It's developing that language, like you said.
Absolutely.
Yes. Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Gabriella.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. Excited about that. So as we begin the week begins with Mercury, the planet of the conscious mind, transiting back into the mutable earth sign which it rules, Virgo, which is symbolized by the Virgin. The symbols of astrology. The Virgin, what does the Virgin represent? And the Virgin represents perfection, order. So when we're thinking about Mercury transiting back into Virgo, and Mercury was just in Virgo. It was in Virgo the first 4 degrees of Virgo. It stopped at the 4th degree and then started retrograding back. It was in Virgo briefly from July 25th to August 14th, just the first 4 degrees. Now it's going to transit the full 30 degrees, which begins today, Monday, September 9th, until September 26th. So this is really focusing your attention on, that's the refresh, like getting everything cleansed. Virgo is a really cleansing sign. It's about eliminating what is no longer serving you, and so you can reorganize your life and create that greater sense of efficiency so that you can be of greater service to others. So what isn't serving you that you can release so that you can be of greater service to others? It's about creating space.
Creating space. So this is the phase where we're sort of clearing space and not sure yet what might come in.
Yeah, totally.
Place.
It's like when you get rid of some things, like say your closet, you get rid of some clothes, you haven't worn this in a few years. It's like, why is it here? You get rid of it, you give it away, you donate it, whatever, you sell it. You clear out some space in your closet. The next step is reorganizing your closet. And when your closet's reorganized, it looks different. Maybe it's easier to find certain items. Maybe some items pop up and you're like, I haven't worn this in a couple of years, but I totally forgot that it was there until I got rid of these other things, and it was kind of hiding in the back of the closet. And ultimately, it's helping you create a greater sense of efficiency in order to how you're living your daily life. It's also health. Like, really think about, how am I taking care of my body? How am I taking care of my mind? How is the way that I take care of my mind affecting my body? How is the way that I'm taking care of my body affecting my mind?
The relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Virgo rules the intestines. It's like connecting the mind to that part of your body, the gut. Ooh, I feel sick there. Why? What have you been talking about, or what have you been eating? How is it affecting you, the way that you feel?
Right, because consumption is so much more than just food. It's anything you give your attention to.
Yes.
Essentially.
Exactly. So, I'm going to put in the show notes the dates when Virgo has transited through. I'm going to put in the show notes the dates where Mercury has transited through Virgo, the previous times to this last brief time where it was just the 4 degrees, and look back at those dates for clues on what could be in store for you this time around. If you were born with key astrological points or planets in Gemini or Sagittarius, there could be challenges with conversation, communication, consciousness, coordination, curiosity. Your mind is being stretched or maybe limited in some way that is creating discomfort for you. But wherever that discomfort is, it's there to bring awareness to what needs to maybe be eliminated or reorganized. The day after Mercury transits into Virgo, the Sun in Virgo, the planet of light, life, and vitality, forms a square, a stressful aspect to the Moon in Sagittarius, the planet of emotions, in the mutable fire sign, symbolized by the Archer. This is that half moon. It's happening at 19 degrees on Tuesday night, 11:06 p.m. Pacific time. So you look up, you see that half moon, and
I always feel the half moon.
it's tense. Yes.
Yeah. Anytime you know that feeling when your shoulders are like a little too close to your ears and you're like, why am I doing that with my body?
Yes.
Usually when I'm doing that, I'm like, oh, it's the half moon. Like I feel it. My body starts doing different things.
Exactly. Yes. It's a very sensitive time. It's tense. The tension is between that energy of Virgo, which is reorganization and elimination, but then Sagittarius is about freedom and exploration. Virgo's the details, and Sagittarius is the big picture. So our mind is being stretched in two different directions with our emotions. Our emotions are saying, I just want to be free. But our identity and our mind is saying, I've got to really focus on the details in order to harness that sense of freedom that I desire. I can't really be free unless I get my life organized. Otherwise, it's just a mess. But at the same time, I don't want to get bogged down into the minutia of things and totally lose my sense of adventure and exploration.
Well, one of those energies is pulling you in, and the other is sort of pulling you out.
Exactly. That's the simplest way to put it.
Right.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. So we're being stretched.
We're being stretched. Well, and we know, like we do with any other opposites, and I know Sagittarius and Virgo are not actually opposites in the zodiac, but energetically, in some ways, sort of detail versus big picture is an opposite experience. And it's interesting how they actually inform one another. How you need the details to appreciate the big picture. Like you actually need, they're like pieces of a puzzle.
You need both.
You need both.
Right. And so both are coming together here, and it may be coming together in a manner that feels tense, but ultimately it's for the benefit of you. So on Wednesday, September 11th, is when Mercury finally transits out of its retrograde shadow. So hopefully by Wednesday, the tension of the retrograde and the half moon is dissipating. And we've been in this retrograde shadow since July 16th. So, I mean, it's been like almost 2 months. We've been in this retrograde shadow. Mercury is back where it was on August 4th, which was the day that Mercury retrograde began. So think back. What was going on in my life on July 16th? What was going on August 4th when Mercury retrograde began? What was going on August 28th when Mercury returned to direct motion? And how does that compare to what's going on in my life now? What was I able to clear off my plate? Hopefully you were able to clear some things that had been kind of cluttering your life. And now moving forward, you're able to have that extra space to add anything new that would be more complementary to what's already in your closet. Let's say, it's like we're taking some things out of the closet, we're getting rid of them, we're clearing the space, we're reorganizing, and from that reorganization, we're now inspired to, oh, you know what would look good in here, which would match maybe this top or these pants, is this item. And now my closet feels more complete as opposed to disorganized. So as Mercury continues through Virgo, it forms a sextile on Wednesday, the day that it moves out of its retrograde shadow on September 11th. And this sextile began forming on Monday, September 9th, and continues until Wednesday, September 12th. The sextile is with Mars, the god of war, the planet of action, aggression, and conflict, transiting through the cardinal water sign symbolized by the crab, Cancer. So Mercury, the messenger of the gods, Mars, the god of war, but it's a sextile. It's a supportive aspect. Earth is Virgo, gives water, Cancer, form. Cancer, water, nurtures the earth of Virgo. But Mars transiting through Cancer is about facing your fears and insecurities with regards to your past. Your roots, your upbringing, your childhood, the ones who raised and nurtured you, your ancestors. Aligning with Mercury in Virgo, we're talking about elimination. Do you have the courage to face your fears and insecurities that are rooted in your past consciously? That's Mercury. And then eliminate them, digest them, and eliminate them so that you can reorganize your mind and reorganize your relationship to your past. This is what that refresh is about. Going back to the theme of the week, refresh. It's refreshing your perspective of your past.
I wonder if this is also maybe being willing to engage with a mental process around your emotional nature as well. Since Cancer is the emotions.
Yes.
So specifically emotions related to family, related to the past, but also, maybe willing to look at, I don't know if efficiency of emotions is really a term that I like, but so there's something coming in around really allowing yourself to feel efficiently, like feel in a way that's like really going to help you move it through your system.
It sounds like what you're saying is that efficiency is being able, because where do the emotions come from?
Well, it's like organizing your emotions in a way.
Exactly. And the emotions come from the past. I mean, the first people you felt anything for on an emotional level were the people who raised you. So there was feelings that were hurt in the past. And so this is about creating that efficiency with those feelings where it's like, oh, my emotions are coming up here. This goes back to when my mom, fill in the blank, my dad, fill in the blank. And rather than wallowing in it, we face it, we recognize this is connected to that. There's the thread. The thread that I'm experiencing right now, this frustration, this emotional outburst that I'm about to have is rooted in this past experience that happened when I was 3 years old, 5, 10, whatever it may be. I mean, as you know, the stimulation is already happening at the moment of birth with the astrological code. But that Virgo, Mercury and Virgo piece is creating that efficiency. where it's like we can cut through those parts of ourselves that are not serving us and just take an efficient look. Oh, this is because of my trauma here. I don't need to make it bigger than it is.
Well, I think what you said earlier about what we're working through during this period are the things that we're already conscious of, the conscious mind. So we're not suggesting that you just sort of get rid of new insights that you haven't even processed. So it's a very sort of, in the healing process, it's a very specific sort of phase that we're being invited to focus on, is to move through what is in that sort of intestinal Virgo sort of stage in terms of what you've consumed.
Right.
So these are sort of the older kind of wounds that you're already really aware of. This isn't like, these aren't the new insights that come in. So it's interesting. It reminds me a lot what you're describing as the EMDR process that I go through with clients.
Tell me.
Which is very kind of Virgo in nature.
Analytical.
Well, before we get to the actual reprocessing with the EMDR itself, which, if you're not familiar, it's a form of therapy where using bilateral stimulation, which works with both sides of the brain, both hemispheres, it helps you to move through traumatic memories, anything from trauma to memories that are maybe just disturbing to you in some way. So it can capture sort of a wide, kind of casts a wide net in terms of what it can address. But the whole process begins with mapping out, sort of like you're saying, how are things connected to each other? And EMDR really revolves around your belief systems. So if you have a belief, for example, that you're unlovable, you're unworthy, or you're unsafe, or, that's kind of where that starts. You start with the belief and then you map it back and you look at, okay, what is the evidence? What are the memories that are connected to that? And so you're sort of organizing. It's called your neural pathway.
Yes.
Like, what is all the evidence that's connected to this belief? And so it helps inform the processing itself by sort of organizing it in a really interesting way.
Right. Helps you make sense of it so you can like decompartmentalize everything in a sense. No?
Yeah. Well, so you can go in and really focus on processing that particular memory.
Yeah. You know, one thing I'm sure I've said this on the podcast, I mean, I say this to my clients all the time, is like when you have an experience, think back, when was the last time I had an experience like this? And then think back, when was the first time I had an experience like this? And then
that's what we do. You try and find the earliest memory.
And then you go back to that first time as the adult and you be there for your younger self. Because when you heal that first one, then you don't have to go through it again and again and again.
Right.
In the present life. It's like, you know, I grew up outside of Fresno, and so I'm the closest thing we had to a professional sports team was the Fresno State football team, and they played a game this last week at Michigan, who was the national champions from the year before, and they lost. And the coach, Fresno's coach, said, "We don't want to lose to Michigan twice." Meaning, we lost this game. We're not going to carry the feeling of that loss into the next game. Because if you carry it with you into the next game, then you might lose the next game because you're still angry at yourself for losing the last game. And it just makes me think about what we're talking about, where you have this experience where you've lost, you've been hurt in some way, and you don't heal from that. And then you continue to find other experiences in life that hurt you in the same way that the first time hurt you.
Yeah. So what you're calling, so what you're talking about is the negative neural pathway, as we would say in our EMDR language. But what we also do is look at the positive, like what would be the opposite. So if you have you have your negative core belief and then all the evidence, right? And then we look at, okay, what would be the positive belief that would be the opposite? And then we actually look at the evidence for that, because most of us actually have evidence of the opposite as well. So if we feel unworthy, we have evidence of that. If we stretch ourselves and think of times where we did feel worthy, we often have evidence of that too. And so it's a process of looking at actually both, because we have a tendency to hold those negative beliefs. They can actually be stored if the information hasn't been processed. It's kind of like something you've consumed that's stuck in your body and hasn't moved through.
Yes.
And it gets stuck actually in your short-term memory. So part of what we're doing with EMDR is moving some of those difficult, painful memories into long-term memory. It's kind of like cataloging and like putting stuff away.
Filing it away.
So it's not like right in front of you.
Right.
And then allowing that positive.
It's no longer on the desk.
Yeah.
It's in the file cabinet.
It's in the
It's like, this needs to stop sitting on your desk.
Yeah.
So you take the negative neural pathway off the desk, put it in the file cabinet.
Right.
And then you
process it so you can put it away.
Yeah. Process it, put it in the file cabinet, and then you take the positive neural pathway and you put that on the desk.
You take the positive neural pathway, exactly. And there's some of the EMDR language just sounds, I'm not a super fan of it. It's called like installation. But it really is like a process of... You
install the program into your consciousness.
You take time really like connecting with how you would rather feel. It's a really interesting experience.
Yeah, awesome.
And yeah, if anyone's curious to learn more about EMDR or to maybe do that work together, please let me know, because I do work with clients long-term psychotherapy. But if you're coming in like just wanting to work on like just to do EMDR, I do offer that too. And of course I do EMDR with my longer term clients as well if they're interested, but it's really kind of blown me away the way I've seen it create shifts for my clients.
That's awesome.
And yeah, some of the language is a little hokey, but
it works.
It really works. It's very interesting. So anyway, I could talk on and on about that, but let's leave it there for now.
Okay. On Thursday, September 12th, so happening pretty much at the same time as this Mercury in Virgo, Sextile Mars in Cancer aspect, is the Sun in Virgo squaring Jupiter, the planet of luck and expansion, the god of thunder, in the mutable air sign of Gemini, symbolized by the twins transit. This is happening at 20 degrees. This is from Monday to Friday, all week long, with the exact square happening on Thursday, September 12th. So we're bringing in the conscious now, because Jupiter is one of the planetary rulers of the sign of the unconscious Pisces, but it's transiting through the sign of the conscious Gemini, while the Sun is transiting through the other sign of the conscious Virgo, which are both ruled by Mercury. The difference between the two is the Gemini frequency is that conscious thought. Like, I can think it, I can see it in my mind, it's very clear. Whereas the consciousness of Virgo is, I can touch it. It's right here on the page.
It's Earth.
Yeah, it's here. It's not like floating around in my thoughts. It's actually, I can show it to you.
Right. It's not air, it's Earth.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So this is happening the same time as the Mercury and Mars transit, and it's really connecting these two parts of your conscious processing through the thought, the air, and the earth, something you can see and touch. But there is tension here, and the tension is, I can see the tension very clearly through my experience of wanting to be a screenwriter, where there's so many times where my writing partner and I would be like, oh my God, and we'd be talking about our idea. We'd be going back and forth. This is going to be the most amazing thing ever. And then you start writing it and you're like, oh,
it's not that great.
It's not as good as we thought it was going to be. But it's not. It's just like the execution. Like the idea was like amazing, but then when you start actually writing it out, somehow it doesn't fit as clearly on the page as it does in your mind. So where are you feeling stuck between your conscious thought patterns and your reality? Is your conscious thought patterns not meeting your reality? And if so, what do you need to adjust? Maybe there's a part of the thought that needs to be released, part of the idea that needs to be let go of in order to make the rest of it work. It's a mind pretzel.
It is a mind pretzel.
Yes, it feels like solving a puzzle, solving the puzzle of you. What are your thoughts? And what is it about your thoughts that are not translating to your physical reality that you would like to? And what do you need to reorganize about your thoughts in order to bring what you see in your mind into your physical reality, if that's what you desire? Or it could be the other way. I'm not thinking about this, but something's happening in my physical reality that isn't correlating with my thoughts. And maybe that's something to do with the unconscious. There's something going on in the unconscious that you're unaware of. And that's part of what Jupiter transiting through Gemini is about. It's connecting the unconscious to the conscious. It's expanding your conscious awareness in a way that you're becoming more aware of things that you were previously unaware of. And that awareness is coming fully into the picture with this aspect with the sun, and it may not look good.
Well, you're almost talking about 3 different layers here.
Yes,
and
we are.
Probably my favorite Carl Jung quote that I'm pretty sure, I wish I could remember exactly the moment when I heard it, but I like to attribute it to why I'm doing this work. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate.
Oh, yes.
Isn't that profound?
Yes.
So what he's saying is until you're willing to look at how your inner life is affecting your conscious reality, that Gemini part, until you're willing to look at the relationship between the two, you're going to look at that Virgo, that earthly stuff, and you're going to think, this is just how it's supposed to be. These are the cards I've been dealt.
Yes, that victim mentality.
Well, some people might feel victimized by that kind of a statement. Other people might feel comforted by the idea that they don't really have a lot of agency in that process. It can kind of go both ways, but it's interesting to consider the layers. So physical reality, Virgo, what informs that? The conscious mind.
Yep.
And then what informs the conscious mind? The unconscious.
Yeah.
So keeping kind of going back, and that brings me back to why dream work is so important. Because it's what's happening behind the scenes.
This week feels like a wake-up call in some sense, because there's the potential to become aware of what is going on in the unconscious through something that you see in your physical reality that maybe has been there for a while, but now you really notice it. You're like, this has been here this whole time, and I'm just now becoming aware of it. How did I miss that? But kind of going back also to your point about fate and the cards being dealt, like, I had a really interesting conversation with my aunt, who's 101, that I talked about on the midweek version of the podcast. And she was born with Mercury in Virgo. She said that she doesn't know how she got to 101. That things just happen. Put one foot in front of the next. It's just, you don't have any control over life. But there is a peace to that. She felt peaceful in that, because it's like, I haven't done anything wrong. I'm not beating myself up over regrets. There's no suffering going on over, I should have done this instead of that. So you can look at, like, these are the cards that I'm dealt as, like, I'm screwed, or these are the cards that I'm dealt. I'm just going to play the hand the best that I can.
Yeah, one thing that's comforting to someone else is afflicting for another.
Yes.
Well, I just wanted to acknowledge that beliefs like fate versus free will, and sort of the curiosity around, like, what is true, how does this all work, we're not proclaiming to know. We're just,
I mean, I believe in fate and free will. Is that weird?
no.
I believe in both. I think
that's where I land as well. I think that's where I land as well.
Yeah, I mean,
that it's about having a relationship with both.
Yes. And I think about it in terms of your astrological code. Like, that is the hand that you've been dealt. But how you play that hand is up to you. So, on one hand, there is fate. And I can't control the fact that I'm Scott Tajarian and I'm all the aspects of my astrological code. That's who I am. But how I work with that energy and the frequencies in the higher frequency is up to me. But then even in still working with those frequencies in their highest expression, things are still going to happen that are out of my control.
Always. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Now, as we close the week, we've got 2 transits to close the week. That's Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, the planet of relationships, transiting through the cardinal air sign symbolized by the scales, which Venus rules, Libra. Also aligning with Jupiter in Gemini. This is a trine, a supportive aspect, air. This is occurring from Thursday, September 12th to next Monday, September 16th, with the exact trine occurring on Saturday, September 14th. So, as we refresh and wake up, the wake-up call here is about relationships. Do my relationships feel balanced and fair? The awakening is becoming more conscious of the give and the give and take that is occurring in all your relationships. Does it feel balanced? Is it righteous? Am I being righteous towards my partner? Is my partner being righteous towards me?
Is there balance?
Yes. So this is a lift. Hopefully the work that we've done through the early part of the week is going to give us that lift and that balance, that reward that helps us feel a greater sense of harmony or peace within our relationships. There's also Mars continuing through Cancer, forms a square, a stressful aspect to the North Node, which is the karmic pathway of the soul or soul's purpose, transiting retrograde through the cardinal fire sign, symbolized by the ram and ruled by Mars, Aries. This is happening at 6 degrees. This is from Thursday to next Tuesday, with the exact square occurring on Sunday, September 15th. So as we're feeling that levity in relationships and righteousness, what's going to help push us through is this square of Mars in Cancer and the North Node in Aries. It's about coming to terms with who you are, who you've been, and who you want to be. It's all of it together. That's who I used to be. Yes, I'm going to be authentic about that. I'm going to be courageous enough to say that I was this person when I was a child, when I was a teenager, when I was in my 20s, 30s. Now I'm this person now. And this is who I want to be moving forward. This is who I see myself in the future. It may be hard to look back at the past and see yourself in the light that you exposed yourself to in the past, in the way that you presented yourself to the world. But by having the courage to look back, you're able to make peace with the past. You're able to process it and put it in the file cabinet.
I think an important distinction here is, and this comes up a lot in therapy, is being willing to look at how the past has shaped the present, but not letting it prevent you from how you want to move forward.
Exactly.
So, but acknowledging that it has shaped who you are today, and that the choices that you make going forward can take you anywhere you'd like to go. You don't have to continue to feel limited by the things that happened in the past.
Yes. This is like the coach saying, we're not going to lose to Michigan twice.
Right.
Exactly. Let's not carry the loss from that game into the next game and the next game and the next game. And then, we've got to acknowledge we lost. How can we improve upon that? And in improving upon that, we're empowering ourselves in the next game.
Right. Well, it's like looking at our relationship with our parents, which is often a big theme in therapy. But it's not about blaming our parents, but about recognizing that they had responsibility for the role that they played in how they raised us and who we subsequently are.
Yes.
Without blaming and without needing to sort of carry that forward in perpetuity.
Yes.
I think that's a really important
And that's it. That's
part.
An ancestral thing too. It's like
it goes back and back. Of course.
It's like,
of course.
You don't want to carry the demons of your parents, the demons of your grandparents, and so on and so forth.
Right.
It's about processing all of that. And most of the time, the parents don't want to pass that down to the children, but you can't help it.
Right.
Sometimes.
A lot of it is unconscious content as well.
Yes.
So
that's the week.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Gabriella.
Thank you, Scott.
And thank you to our listeners.
Thank you so much.
And we'll see you next week.
Until then.
Thank you for listening to the weekly transit. If you're curious to learn how these transits or any other transits may be affecting you,
Or if you're interested in learning more about your astrological code, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. If you're interested in delving into the world of psychotherapy with Gabriella, you can schedule a consultation with her at gabrieladurso.com. That's GabriellaDurso.com. Support for the podcast can be done through a monthly contribution on Spotify, rating us 5 stars, subscribing to our channel on YouTube, or writing a favorable review on Apple Podcasts. We are grateful for your support. This episode was produced by me, Scott Tajarian. Music written by Ben Leinbach from Listen Deep by Amber Herzog-Lyman. Wishing you all the best as you ride the planetary waves.